Richard Avedon is one of our most influential and innovative photographers. In the last 6 decades, he has managed to be at the center of American culture and society. He spent 45 years as staff photographer, at first Harper's Bazaar and then at Vogue. And as much as his style changed the world of fashion photography, his images of the Civil Rights Movement and the Vietnam War changed the way we saw ourselves. He has been the New Yorker staff photographer since 1992 and continues to push the boundaries of his medium. I am pleased to have him here to talk about a lifetime of work, past, present, and future, a kind of understanding of the art and the artist. Welcome back to this program. Tell me what this process is about for you. What is photography about?
Well, it's about, you've been doing it long too. It's about, well, let me go obliquely at it. It's about keeping it alive. Years ago, I photographed Jean Renoir. And, you know, he's the son of Renoir the painter and a great film director. And I was so excited. He was one of the few people left in the world that I was in awe of. And I went, he lived in Beverly Hills. And it wasn't like Beverly Hills. It was like a house in the south of France. The sun was pouring through the windows. There were flowers inside and outside. And I knocked on the door, went in, and his wife said, "Jean's in the bedroom." And there was this very old, very sick man, naked, leaning on a walker, being dressed, unembarrassed, by his assistant, and kind to me. And we went out. There's so much in his face, so much I admired. I did my picture, and he said, "Won't you join us?" Well, there's a long table in the middle of his home, and I love long tables in the middle of a room. And friends, it was Sunday.
Yes.
Came with a Sunday cake with vodka that had lemon rind in it. And Leslie Caron was one of the people, and two young film directors. And I sat down, and in those days, I could be absolutely frozen with a feeling of, this is Sunday. These are his friends. I came to photograph him. I've done my photo. What am I doing at his table? I have nothing to say. And film with a capital F, I have less to say about, and I'm not adequate to this situation. I shouldn't be here, but I was very good at making a face and smiling and appearing interested.
Yeah.
But I wanted to get out, and at some moment, Renoir got up to go to the bathroom. And I used that moment to say, "Goodbye, everybody," and thank you for inviting me. And I went into a very narrow hall. This is about something. I'm not just... Went into a narrow hall, and he headed for the door, and he came out of his bedroom on his walker and blocked my way. And I said, "Monsieur Renoir, thank you so much for letting me take your picture." He looked me in the eye, and he said, "It's not what's said. It's the feelings that cross the table." Be able to be that present in each moment, that's what we're talking about. The quality of paying attention that he had, and then the compassion. I think there is not much more to life than that story. And to be that age, surrounded by your father's works of art, and to have created your own, and to have a jar of vodka and a wife and sunshine pouring through the windows, and vodka, and a Sunday cake and a friends and a son who's become a teacher, and his children, and Sunday, and to still pay that kind of attention to a stranger. I mean, that's
what it's about.
That's what it's about. Yeah. And paying attention, intense attention, is what the work is about. And feeling what comes in and saying, "Stop, Dick. Stop, Charlie. This is another person coming in. There's something that can happen here." You know, and I know you're interested in craft.
Very.
Of course, and so am I, and I can talk about it.
All right, I want to talk about that. Let me interweave this with some things that you selected. I asked you to bring examples of 3 works that were important, you know, as we talk about the demands of photography, which you're just expressing. This is Duvima and the Elephants.
Yeah.
Tell me about it.
That was a fashion picture for Harper's Bazaar.
How many years ago? That was
the early 50s.
Okay. Harper's Bazaar was where you came to New York. That was the beginning for you, was it not?
Yeah. I always wanted to work for Harper's Bazaar. In those days, magazines meant something. And the best writers from Dylan Thomas to Truman Capote to Flannery O'Connor, wrote for Harper's Bazaar. The best photographers had pure essays, Cartier-Bresson, Brassard.
Right.
And it was a great, you were joining a community that meant something. And that was where I wanted to be.
All right, take a look at the next photograph, which is, guess what?
My father. It's a portrait of him just before he died. I had been doing portraits of him for 7 years as a way of a language that we could share. So he would understand my language as I had understood his. And this is a picture a week before he died.
Where does this picture now?
The print, the actual print?
No, the print.
Yeah, I have a very small edition of it, because the large ones that were in the Museum of Modern Art and small sets, and they're in my warehouse in Tucson, the Center of Creative Photography.
I want to talk about collecting in a minute, but then the last one, the last photograph.
That's just Marilyn Monroe, and I thought it would be fun to show her. She was so wonderful.
The demands of photography for you, what's hard about it for you? Why do you get scared?
No, there's nothing hard about it. I get scared because I used to get, and I'm longing for that fear to come back. I used to feel that, and I still feel that every time I take a camera in my hand, it's crucial. It's crucial. It's being like you know what? Maybe I'm scared like an athlete is scared. Yeah. You're going to try for the high jump. You could blow it. And that's exactly what taking a photograph is like. If I'm photographing you, well, you're a friend. You would come back again.
Right.
But most people don't come back again. And I have to make within sometimes minutes and sometimes longer. Marilyn Monroe loved to pose, and we could go on and on and on. But most of the people I photograph come, and I have to pull out of myself and out of them something. See, I'm doing it with you right now. I've got your interest. And if I had my camera, I'd have a beautiful portrait of you. But if I can't make that happen, if I'm low, if the day is wrong, if something in the studio irritates me, whoop, and then the fear comes over. And also, I usually, in the early days, had such respect for the people I photographed. I chose them because I admired them.
And today you have less respect? Because you've seen so much?
No, it's not because I've seen so much. I'm an older man now, and I think we should talk about that.
We'll talk about it.
Yeah, I will. But
you're an older man, meaning?
Look, I know about old guys on television. Geezers on television all do the same thing. They just say, well, I'm just the guy I was, and I'm hitting the golf course just the way I did. There's nothing about getting older that's good. It is pure terribleness every day, every minute. But the thing that I think I like about it is that I don't feel I have to prove myself in any way. So like an onion peeling, I don't go to dinner parties because I've been to dinner parties. I don't work much for magazines because I've worked for magazines all my life. So so what's left? Work, making the work better, doing the job better than I did before. And the few close friends that you get in the kitchen, you sit down and you talk. You know, my friends, Andre Gregory and Mike Nichols, Renata Adler, we sit down and we talk, really. There's no turning to the left and turning to the right and saying, what did you think of the Charlie Rose show?
Right. Good. When you look, do you have great regrets when you talk about your life?
Really?
Yeah.
I think that when you work as I've worked, there's something that I didn't do successfully, and that's my family life, marriage. I think I was I don't believe you can do it all. You can try to do it all.
So if you have the passion for your work that you do,
Yeah, that's right.
you pay a price. You pay a price because there's not that much of you to go around.
That's right, to go around. And I think if you pay that price, that's not a terrible price. I mean, there's no guarantee that any family life, married life, is going to work out, or it might. But we have something. I mean, I don't know about you, but
No.
you know.
But let me stay with you. Here's the interesting thing about you, about your work. Is why I think you're very, very lucky. Like a musician, a painter, you found something you loved and became very good at doing it. And because of that, the opportunities to do more of it expanded. And so you got a chance to live within what all the insecurities, all the fears, all of the challenges, all of the demands. You got a chance to live, though, in a place, not a city, but a place, an idea of doing something that really turns you on. And being able to do it well enough so that you were up there where you knew you were doing something special.
You know, there's a biological...
You think that's true?
You bet.
Right.
I think there's a biological X about whether you can do it or who has the ability to do it. A lot of people want to be photographers and writers, and they're not good writers, or they're not good photographers. And it wasn't a master plan. I just love to get up every morning. I still do.
Yeah.
You know, the mornings are my best time. I'm ready to work at 9 o'clock, and by the time the makeup is done or the people are ready, I'm ready to go to sleep, usually. But it's a gift that was given to me. And maybe I was a shrimp. Maybe in the locker room I was a failure. Maybe, I don't know what it was, but I had a bedroom when I was a kid, and the kids were playing out on the street, and I would draw the shade, and there was a little tiny split, and I could look out at them. It was like being in a camera.
Right.
I don't know what that is. I don't know where it comes from. I don't think anybody does. Yeah. But at some moment, it comes together if you're lucky.
Yeah.
And then, if you do work every day of your life, you get better at it. And the trick is, as I said earlier, it's to keep it alive, to keep it crucial.
In that context, let's take a look at some of the things you're doing now in the interest of this. And the first one is evening prayer to the Mother.
I'll tell you what this is. This is an issue of the New Yorker that's coming out maybe the 29th of November. And it's an assignment from the New Yorker called Revelations. And I've called it Revelations, a work in progress. It was about religion, listen to this, religion on the planet at the millennium.
All right.
You like that assignment?
Religion on the planet at the millennium.
Yeah.
All right.
So I started by doing, going to India, because I wanted to be in some place I'd never been before. Hinduism, Buddhism, and Catholicism later. So this is a work that will never be completed. There is no way in photographs to say what we know about religion. It's just hard to avoid cliches. So that's a prayer ceremony on the Mother Ganges at night, at dusk, where flame is put on the Ganges and the Ganges takes it down.
Now, do you make all the final decisions as to what photograph appears in any magazine? It's your choice.
Yeah, at this stage. This wasn't always the case.
But today.
Now I can say I will do this assignment on the condition that
I choose the photograph.
But I don't, choose the photograph. I work with the editor. With David Remnick, for example. How many pages? 30 pages, 20 pages, 18 pages? Then he says how many he thinks. He's very open and wonderful to work with, as Tina Brown was. And we work together. But in the end, it can never be the magazine's point of view alone, exclusively. Yeah.
And
because it's something I'm saying.
And you've earned the right.
Unless they say, this is the assignment, do you want to do it?
Yeah.
Then that's another thing.
If they say, this is the assignment, and it's so exciting, but we reserve the right to choose because...
That's right.
You make a choice.
They don't usually say it.
All right. The next photograph, this is things we haven't seen yet. This is, again, in India.
Yes. These are Hindus, sects, Nagas. I guess on the way on the right.
Nagasathu, yeah.
Yeah. They strip themselves of everything and go into the world naked.
Right.
And that man, I think, is doing a snake ceremony with his hands. And on the right, he's starting yoga.
All right. Next photograph is, again, this is having to do with religion.
Well,
His Eminence Lorenzo Cardinal Antonetti.
He is, in a sense, the financial control of the Vatican. He controls the investments, he controls the banks. That's...
You know, this was done for the New Yorker, but for a story about the Vatican and money, or part of the millennium.
No, I was doing Catholicism,
right.
And I was going to Rome, and I thought, I don't want to do the Pope. He's photographed a great deal. I want to do the money behind the Vatican. Where does that money go? Right. And fortunately, I was able to photograph this man who was in charge of it.
That's a great story, actually.
Yeah.
All right, next story. The next picture, penitentes.
These are penitentes flagellists outside of Bilbao in Spain on Good Friday. There's it's an ancient ritual, and they beat their backs until the backs bleed, and they wear hoods, and... You know, we have something like that in America.
What is it?
The Sangre de Cristo Mountains, the same thing.
Flagellate themselves?
Yes, yes. You can't see them do it unless you hide in the bushes on Good Friday at night, and then they go from the marauders into the church beating themselves.
Next photograph is Buddhist nuns in front of the Himalayas and the Tibetan child.
Yes.
Who lost both feet to frostbite in the Himalayas while fleeing the
That's right.
Chinese.
His mother was, I think, killed, and he's in the hands of a nun, but he lost, not both feet, I think one foot is frozen off. Yeah. And all the women on the left are Buddhist nuns who came from Tibet, crawling into Dharamshala, which is in India, where their headquarters are.
Okay, the next photograph is, again, well, we know who that is on the right.
Yeah, that's himself, His Holiness.
Yes, Dalai Lama.
With an amazing ability to connect.
The Dalai Lama, absolutely.
I mean, he just can. Have you been?
Yes, I've met him.
Isn't he? And then on the left is Chaudhry, is that his name?
Niraj Chaudhary.
Yeah, he is the eminent 100-year-old, he just died a few weeks ago, Hindu scholar living in Oxford, and he wrote the most wonderful book about the English influence on India, and he spent his life in Oxford, and he was 100 years old when I photographed him, sort of still wonderful. So those are some of the pictures that are coming out.
What would you do differently? You had this to, you're thinking about today. You know, collecting. You're thinking about...
What would I have done differently in the past? Yeah. I did the best I could. I don't know if with my knowledge now, if I'd gone back...
Would you do it all differently?
It's all so interwoven, the career. I don't think I would have done anything differently.
Yeah. When you think about collecting now...
Yeah.
What do you think about?
Well, what's happened is that the market for collecting has suddenly become a real thing for photographers, a way of making a living. It didn't
because
exist.
photography has become art in the minds of dealers and people like that.
That's right, and the recent auctions, the prices have risen enormously. There was an early wave picture, I think by Watkins, I'm not sure, of waves that sold for $800,000.
Carlton Watkins.
Carlton Watkins, I think it was $800,000. My own prints of rare pictures that are in small editions have gone, you couldn't give them away last year, have been sold for $34,000 and two in the last, and I'm beginning to work with Jeffrey Frankel, which he's the best photography dealer in the country, and I'm going to have a show in San Francisco around December 1st to begin to bring the vintage. I mean, imagine having vintage prints in your own lifetime. I mean, I look at it, and I haven't looked at these pictures in decades. So to see what I was doing 30, 40 years ago, it's not very moving.
But I'm always struck by the other thing, too, and this is true about you, and I assume about Cartier-Bresson. I mean, I remember the picture that he took of Picasso, a famous death mask photograph,
yes.
a famous death mask photograph. I look at the picture of your father,
That's right.
That's a kind of similar.
Yes, well, in a way, Picasso did himself.
Yeah.
Is that what you mean?
Well, no, he painted himself in a self-portrait, but the self-portrait looks amazingly like
That's right.
a portrait, a photograph by Cartier-Bresson.
Yeah. Yes, of course. I want to photograph myself.
Yeah.
But I'm sort of not ready yet.
Why?
I'm not. My face hasn't gone to pieces enough. I mean, it's very hard. Having photographed my father in such a deep way, it's hard for me to go back to that subject, even if it's a self-portrait.
Yeah. Here's what's interesting about your life, for me. Beyond how you are about this thing, beyond how you came to this interview, with ideas about what an interview ought to be, with ideas how an interview might have been in a previous interview. I get facts from you when you see a show that I've done, talking about it. You know, things register with you.
Yeah.
You are really part of what you see. You react to it. I assume that's the reason you're an interesting photographer, because you do bring something to what your eye sees, and you react to it. And if you have a camera, you take a photograph of it.
And I've read, or I've listened, or I've watched. Yeah. Go ahead.
But there's also this really amazing thing about the aspects of your life. I mean, the notion of you talk about what you enjoy today. What you really enjoy most is not having a dinner party where you sit on this side and you sit on this side. But what you enjoy today is the opportunity to be with Renata and Mike Nichols and people who you are genuine friends and where you get to the core of things. You know. But there is also, for those of us who look at the arc of a life, I mean, all the notion that you, as a young man, had great admiration for.
Marion Anderson, Bert Lahr.
Yeah, people like, and also Fred Astaire.
Oh, yeah, sure.
Yeah. You know, and almost wanted to emulate in a way.
Yeah.
Fred Astaire plays you in a movie, and he has to come to say,
how do I hold a camera?
Yeah, how do I hold a camera? And what's it like to be you?
Well, that's
the great irony of life.
Yeah, that's an irony of life. I mean, I wanted to be Fred Astaire, and he ended up playing me. But I had nothing to do with that.
Yeah, but it's a great...
It's a wonderful thing. I look at that movie, and he gave me a pair of shoes that didn't fit. They're still on the mantelpiece. Yeah. He's a man who made love with his feet, who invented his art, and there's nobody before him or after him. So that's someone to admire.
So are you.
Do you have a minute more?
Yes.
I want to tell you a story that maybe has something to do with it all. I came back from Vietnam with some amoebic dysentery and the worst diarrhea. And I went to a doctor, and he put me on some medication. And for 2 years, I lost weight, and I lost weight, and I lost weight. And I was down to 118 and falling fast. I thought, well, maybe it's time for another opinion. Went to another doctor at another hospital, and he said, well, I want 2 weeks of your stool. Yeah. Well, okay. Well, it was summer. And I got 2 weeks of my stool, so I got a sort of garbage can. And then I got a lot of ice packs, and I put them around the garbage can, put the garbage can in another pail, and then, of course, it was lovely to go to the beach, so I schlepped my garbage pails. I took them back. 2 weeks were over, and you can't ask another man to carry a shit for you, so I took it to the hospital, and the nurse said, what's this? I said, well, you asked for 2 weeks of my stool. She said, I didn't mean all of it. And I think that has a lot to do with what it's like to be an artist, to be my kind of artist, a photographer, to collect, to pay attention to what everybody else discards, what most people want to get rid of as quickly as possible. An artist has to study, to scrutinize, to find the garbage essential, relevant, in an effort to close the gap between what happened and what we understand.
Well said. Thank you. Richard Avedon, one of the best. Thank you for joining us. See you next time.